Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Bryony Banks. I'm editor of Ambit, and this is the beautiful Ambit 242 that we are bringing you this evening. We've had over 200 people register for tonight, so we're very excited. I don't know how you prefer to Zoom, but you might want to put it on speaker view so you get a good look at the reader, but that's completely up to you. I just want to let you know that we are recording tonight. So if you don't want to be recorded, stop your video or something like that. We've got a packed program for you. We've got 27 readers or videos. So it's going to be a really packed hour. What I'm going to do first is the format is I'm going to introduce our editors, because it's very important that you get to know the people who actually put this magazine together. It takes months for us to put a magazine together, to read everything, to go through everything, and to craft this beautiful thing for you. So I really want to give a huge shout out to our editors who worked so hard to put this together. We're going to start with Kirsty Allison, who's our new managing editor. She's the one with the head band, and she has come on board, and she's going to tell us all about the next Ambit. We're going to introduce a new brand of Ambit called Ambit Pop. So that's going to be really exciting. That's coming in April. And then we're going to go to Kate Pemberton, who's our fiction editor. Kate has worked on Ambit for many, many years. She ran Ambit for a long time. And she is one of the most experienced fiction editors, I think, in London. And we're very happy to have her on board. We're then going to go over to our poetry editors. There were three for this issue: Andre Nafis-Thihili, Kostya Charklakas, who's here tonight, and Roma Ante. Andre couldn't be with us here tonight. It's his last issue, I'm afraid. He is moving over to Poetry London, where he's going to be the editor. So we wish him all the best for that and thank him for his work on Ambit. And Roma, unfortunately, is ill this evening. She's a nurse in the NHS, and we really wish her all love, and sorry that she can't be with us. But we have Kostya, so that you will hear from Kostya. And Kostya and Roma, I'd love to welcome them as our new poetry editors, and I'm really excited about working with them, getting to know them. And then finally, our last editor that we're going to feature this evening is Olivia Bax. And again, we have a farewell. It's Olivia's last issue with us. She has been with us with me since my first issue, which was 2014. So we've done 30 issues together, and it's been an absolute privilege to work with her. So it's her last issue tonight. So it will be a celebration of Olivia. So we're going to introduce the editors. They're going to say a very short piece, and then we are going to go on to the reading. And I'm going to introduce the readings and videos in groups of 3. And that's how we'll work through. Use the chat, enjoy, relax. We're really happy you're with us. And over to Kirsty.
Hello. So yeah, I'm delighted to be working with Bryony. And I think we're all here because Ambit is greater than us. And there's some meaning to being involved in a chronicle of the times that Dr. Martin Bax began in 1959. And he founded Ambit on shock and psychedelia and jazz and a profound sort of need to propagate arts. So when Bryony Bax and Olivia Bax took over with an amazing crew in the past 7 years, they've continued Ambit's legacy of being both arresting and classic, and the past 7 years have kind of seen it propel into being this contemporary journal that we're celebrating today. So I joined the cult of Ambit in 2007, having my first fiction published then. And then last year, when I saw the infrastructure of the editor's ability to propagate a more countercultural spirit in these changing times, I got on board more permanently, and I'm really happy to be a part of it. So we've got a somewhat brilliant year ahead, and I hope that you'll all be a part of that and carry on subscribing and supporting, because I'm really happy to sort of use my background to kind of take it into this new era. And we've got the brilliant songwriter. I'm a massive fan of the Fat White Family. So at a gig in Berlin, I invited him to become a guest editor of this new strand of Ambit called Pop. So Lai Saudi is guest editing a new edition of Ambit, which is going to bring his favourite fiction writers and poets and artists all together in the spirit of Ambit. So we've got some really brilliant names coming together to get involved with that, and people who haven't necessarily been published in Ambit before and have even tried to get published in Ambit before, but now have their own careers. So it's super exciting. So watch this space. That's out late April. They're one of my favourite bands, and Stephen Barrett is coming on board to design as well. Thank you to Mireille Fauchon, our illustration editor, for introducing him. So yeah, it's all looking great, and there's loads more going on this year. So yeah, thanks for being a part of it.
Thanks, Kirsty. So I'm Kate, I'm the fiction editor, the lead fiction editor on Ambit. And I just want to say on behalf of all of the fiction readers on Ambit, congratulations to the fiction writers who we're printing in this issue. It's a really competitive process to get into Ambit, and we're absolutely thrilled to be presenting your work in issue 242. We normally have 30 pages of prose, but we've got 40 in this issue. So we've been able to feature the work of 9 prose writers, and I'm just pasting their names into the chat so that you can see who they are. And at the bottom, you'll see the 2 illustrators who have contributed stunning artworks to accompany 2 of the stories. So tonight, you're going to hear some complete short flash, but most of the time when you're hearing the prose, you're just hearing snippets, just extracts. And we'd really encourage you to buy 242 and see those short pieces on the page in their entirety as they're meant to be read. Because it's, and then you can also see the great illustrations as well. So thank you to everyone who's reading tonight. Thank you for everyone for sending in videos. I'm really looking forward to hearing your work.
Thank you, Kate. Hi, everyone. My name is Kotia Toulakis. Thank you, Kate. Hi, everyone. My name is Kotia Toulakis. I am poetry editor at Ambit, together with Rumlin Ante, also new to the Ambit cult, as K.A. just said. It's a little bit surreal to be welcoming you to the launch of 242 as poetry editor, considering it's only a year ago that I went to my first Ambit launch as a poet, included in 239. So it's rather lovely to be here tonight. It's great to see so many names that we became familiar with during the submission process and emails that we sent out to everyone, and to see these names on screen today, familiar faces and some new voices as well that we hadn't come across before and discovered to our delight during the last submission process. Unfortunately, Roma can't be here today, but we're both very excited to see 242 out in the world. Many of the poems in the issue, and for that matter, also many of the poems we read during the submission process, reflect the anxiety we feel, we have felt in the past 10 months, all of us, since the start of the pandemic. But you will find that many of the poems also contain tenderness, humor, and hope. So I think that's a great start for 2021, and hopefully things will only get better as we progress. Poetry has offered us a great conduit to express how we feel in the past 10 months, but also it's great support, offers great comfort for us during these troubling times. So we've got some stunning poems to hear tonight, and of course you can read all the poems in 242. But before I go, I just wanted to say that Roma and I are really grateful to Andre, with whom we co-produced 242. Andre, as Brian has said, is this month beginning his new role as poetry editor at Poetry London. He really welcomed us in the months that we coincided at Ambit. He was a great guy, and we are really thankful for that. And so we wish him the best of luck as he moves on to Poetry London.
Great, thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Olivia Bax, the art editor at Ambit. I just wanted to start by giving the two illustrators of Ambit 242 a shout out. First of all, Mary Herbert's atmospheric image for Samantha Walton's short story, The Mother, and Nikisha Talbot, who beautifully illustrated Tom Wells's prose, The Gaia. There are less pages of art in this issue, which is why I wanted to pack it with visual stimulus, starting with the cover, which is artwork by the formidable Anthea Hamilton. I think a lot of us are missing the experience of physically viewing art. So inside the magazine, I've brought a selection of recent memorable exhibitions by a range of different artists. The feature discusses work by Luke Routledge at Eastside Projects in Birmingham, Anthea Hamilton's commission at the Tate Devine Galleries, Jesse Reeves at Herald Street, Lawrence Owen at Lychee One, new paintings by Mary Ramsden, John Summers at Three Works in Scarborough, and Sarah Barker at the Leeds Art Gallery. I also discuss Harriet Rickard's film, which I saw a couple of years ago at her Goldsmiths MA show. And I'm delighted that Harriet's made a new Ambit film for the website, which is now available to download for free until the 30th of April. I'm going to play it shortly after I finish just one final message. As Bryony mentioned at the beginning, this is very sadly my last issue as art editor of Ambit. And I just wanted to say that it's been such an inspiring team to be part of and a huge privilege to interview artists, visit studios, see exhibitions. I've worked on many issues with many different artists and friends, too many to tell you about in 2 minutes. So I just wanted to give a special shout out to Kate Pembleton, Mike Smith, Jean-Philippe Dordelot, who worked on most of the issues with me, Marie Fauchon, who's going to do a fantastic job at continuing visual content, and of course, most and foremost, Bryony Bax, who, apart from her dislike for the colour pink, has given me complete free reign and creative freedom. And it's worth saying that despite the hatred for pink, I just counted before the Zoom launch a total of 6 covers where I managed to shoehorn pink in. So it can't have been that strong. So thanks very much to Team Ambit, and best of luck to Kirsty and all of the editors. I'm waving Ambit flag. So now I'm going to play Siblings by Harriet Rickard.
Three, two, one. Doctor, doctor. I want to live inside of a Peter Rabbit book. I want to meet all of the characters and see how they look.
And the pilot said, and the pilot said, and the pilot said,
If I could fly, I'd say 3, 2, 1, and I'd just take off.
Thank you very much, Olivia, for sharing that. Very intriguing. I want to see it again and again because there are so many different layers in that, and very appropriate for today. We're just delivering Olivia a huge bunch of flowers just to surprise her. Look, you have to show everybody, Olivia. Thank you. And they are her favorite color, orange. So a huge bunch of flowers for Olivia to say thank you for all your work on Ambit. She did, yeah, I really hate the color pink, and I also really dislike art speak, and so she's been very tolerant with me over all this, and so thank you very much, Olivia. So now we're going to get on to our readings. We are our first group of 3 readings. We're going to start with Christopher Lanyon, who's going to share some poetry. Then we're going to Madeline Stein from New York, and she's here despite the weather. And Yusuf Helmi, who's going to come live from Chicago. So we're really international. So welcome everybody, and off you go, Christopher.
Hi, I just want to start by saying thank you to Ambit for having me. I'm really pleased to be here. There is a content note on this poem for the death of friends, and in particular car crashes, just to let everyone know before I kick off. Years after the car crash, Emma tagged me and 24 friends in an advert for knockoff Ray-Bans. Whoever has hacked her Facebook doesn't know that she is dead. The last time we were together, we fell asleep stoned on the sofa of her terraced student house. We were secretly holding hands. I didn't tell my girlfriend. I didn't want it to mean something. Before then, we had kissed in stairwells, wandered drunk through Brandon Hill. We were always trying to prove how impossible it was to die. At the funeral, the priest called Emma an undying servant of God, but we knew her cider-lipped and happy, brilliant, gorse fire on the Welsh hills. I hated everyone in the church for their refusal to say who she really was, for calling her undying when she was so clearly dead. I wondered if the man in a cast was the driver of the other car. We skipped out on the wake and went to a Wetherspoons, raised a pint, said our thank yous and our sorries, said goodbye. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Madeline Stein. I am in New York. It's about 2:20 in the afternoon and snowing steadily. And I'm going to read just the beginning of my story, New to Thee. Twice by chance, I lived in the same town as my uncle. Though he was my uncle, he was only 8 years older than I, because he was, in fact, a half-uncle, the son of the woman my grandfather married after my grandmother died. His halfness was evident, if only in that he perturbed the rest of the family every time he opened his mouth, often to trumpet the hidden darkness of their shared past, the slave owning, the otherwise criminal, and the insane, the secrets of history. And yet he dressed like them. The first time we lived in the same town was when I was a freshman in college. He lived in that small, hapless town because his wife played the cello in a local chamber music group. She must have also had some paying job because, as far as I can remember, he was not working. And since he was family, he was expected to call me, to invite me over, and I was expected to go. And really, I had very little else to do. It was the 70s. Nothing seemed to be required. I was taking a random assortment of classes: French classical theater, microbiology, cartography, and Northern Renaissance art. The French class terrified me because in addition to the 83-year-old professor and myself, there were only 2 other students in the class, both senior men, one shy and the other with the sense of humor required to be taking 17th century French classical theater. I lived in fear that one day both of them would be absent and I would be alone with the ancient professor, whose method of teaching was to walk back and forth in front of us, seemingly possessed by Le Cid or Phèdre, and reciting the play in incantatory and rolling French. He did all roles with a passion that sprang with astonishing energy from his feeble body. I was too young to worry about what was probably truly worrisome, that he might have a heart attack, as he did 3 years later, with no one but my useless self to attend him. Instead, I worried about having to answer a question, even a simple yes or no, made me blush hot red. This, despite his clear kindliness. I did not know at all that I was close to beauty. I spent the afternoon hours walking through the apple orchards and fields that surrounded the college. I got back at dusk, walked through the fall wind to the cafeteria, and ate my bowl of granola with milk and a cup of coffee, also with milk. All semester, I had a bowl of granola and a cup of coffee for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The cooked food scared me. I went back to my dorm, the women's dorm, and read Phèdre. My roommate was never there. She had taken up with the crowd who lived in the senior housing. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yusuf. I would like to first extend my gratitude to all the editors at Ambit for this platform, and my gratitude to all the readers for lending me your ears and your time. This one is entitled Elegy with Bird with Broken Neck. When I was 12, I spent the summer at grandfather's. Boba Fauzi, the family calls him. The AC was out, and a bird flew in through the half-open kitchen window. Grandmother, carving green beans like counting every alhamdulillah with prayer beads, saw it. Down went the knife and up the nearest broom. She chased it through the rooms of the house. When the bird circled back, it missed the opening, like light trying to pass through the glass. Once a professional boxer, Boba Fauzi sometimes sat me on his lap, pulled his cheek, showed me gold teeth where real ones once sat, told me stories I now forget of battles in the ring. And when I color in those pages, I see a rattlesnake on the ropes, spitting salt and bile, a son of a bitch to the bone, feet swept up in the waltz of body blows. And when someone's nose breaks and sprays, the red of the blood and the red of the glove are the same, brilliant and alive, spilled on the canvas floor of the ring. Hurricane lilies set in a bowl of cream. As a kid, about him I lied to my classmates all the time. Said his nickname was the Egyptian sand viper, moniker after the right hook as fast as a tree outside a moving car that's gone before you have time to see it. I even said he fought Muhammad Ali in a bout for the ages and that it ended in a tie. Boba Fauzi's first official loss came later that summer in a hospital room. Those faults in a foundation that bring down the house, photo albums and the children alike inside. One by one, the connected spheres of the body failed him like lead sails or a chain link sky. For 2 weeks, grandmother locked herself in the bedroom, only coming out for food in the half-light prologue before dawn. A daily haunting heard in my sleep as creaks in the house's bones. Then one morning, I woke to her asleep beside me, eyes and cheeks puffed and red. Softly, like a lake's song, I set my hand on her head, as if I could ward off the ache from a body at rest, like offering flowers to not the bereaved, but to the walls soaking up their grief. Now, like candles lit for the vigil I yearly keep, I can offer the bird, faithful in its still prostration, head ducked and twisted, pressed to the linoleum, listening for the deep cogs of the earth. I offer Boba Fauzi's hands cupped and lifting the listener with a sincerity only seen when he brought water to his lips for wudu. A solar system's distance from the fists he threw, the lights of the ring and the blast of the crowd blurring into a single sensation. A narrow tunnel strung up in space, just wide enough to pass through. Thank you.
Gosh, that was so moving. Thank you, everybody, for those pieces. I think, gosh, there's so many themes actually within all three of them. And it's amazing how there is a bit of a shared consciousness at the moment. And so thank you for that. Our next readers, we're going to have a video from Duncan Wu, who's based in Virginia in the USA. Then we're going to Alison Brackenbury, and then we are going to Stuart Charlesworth. Welcome.
Glasgow rats. The thing that's coming at you out of the floorboards doesn't negotiate, won't hear your pleas. They're not just poison like killer bees in swarms or the bacilli inside the Stilton. These visitors are asking whether you've the balls to face them down. If not, you'll have stationed them in your head for good, a party of whores and pimps in need of overstimulation when they can just go maniac, full of some plague instinct where they'll drill straight through and head for the screaming child whose mistake was to stay in the corner of the room. And they'll circle it, move in, and suck it dry, and all because you couldn't look them in the eye.
Good evening. I'm Alison Brackenbury. I'm reading two very short poems. The bird in my first two-line poem was extinct in England in my youth, but happily has now been brought back. The poem is called Matched. Red kite soars winter acres, bankrupt king, ice over ground, frost in the trees, snow under wing. As you will hear, I do not want to see the fine bird in my final poem down my own street. The poem is called Off the Edge. By their late lemon leaves, fat sloes hang strangely sparse, one fierce cough close. High in the thorns with black streaked breast, a tall bird, northern flank smudged red, pale eye stripe flashed across its head, lights dim November, sun at rest. It shuns town, yet is driven there, by cold it fled, Siberian air. Redwing in street, admire, beware. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? I'm not sure if you can or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lovely. Sorry. Yeah, I feel part of something really magical tonight. Thank you so much for including me. This poem has a note, so I'll read it. The Guy Coggins Aura Camera 6000 is a modified instant camera that claims to take a picture of the sitter's aura. Because all the chakra necklaces are 20% reduced in the Spirit Healing store. The rainbows of Reiki advertisements tacked to the walls like souvenir banknotes. The hours spent browsing stacks of tarot decks, holding gemstones, and feeling not a single vibration. Yet the Guy Coggins Aura Camera 6000 keeps spitting out Polaroids as a souvenir of your reading and astral card consultation. And I'm not saying a god or a hob, a witch's wink or a demon's mark, but could someone or something be, say, curled into the lens of a Guy Coggins Aura Camera 6000? Something that is not in the shadows among the stalactites of the unknown cave, but is perhaps found on a crater's edge on the moon through a telescope, a lump pumping mitochondrial wall through an electron microscope. Something that wouldn't be there but for the looking and not what was looked for, as how the dwindling church congregation transmitting to God, regardless of whether or not God is able to listen create a flickering spirit creature specific to its own group personality. As how any illusory mimicry is more than illusory mimicry because of the electric arcing from the barely perceptible edges of all mimesis, the thing reaching beyond the barrier of thing's self, and perhaps when scrying the shadows on Freud's wall, perhaps rarely but sometimes through ectoplasm and misdirection at the seance, we might briefly glimpse someone leaning in from stage left and getting on famously with the stagehands who lug the scenery of the universe. But those chakra necklaces look as if they break in 5 minutes. I wouldn't wear one. And this Polaroid that claims to show the colors and shape of my aura, I doubt that I'll keep it. Thank you very much.
That was wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. There's so much in these poems, and I just want to go back and read them right away. Thank you. Our next group of 3, we have Sean Wei Kung, and we're going to have a video from him for poetry. Neil Douglas is then going to read his poem live. And then we have Adelina Rose Gowans, who's a high school student coming from us from South Carolina in America. We really love publishing people at the beginning of their careers, and Ambit has a long history of that. So it's always great to see people at the beginning of their work.
This is Cleve. Okay, I admit it. Even though I rarely think about you these days, I still use that cleaver that you bought me all those years ago on a daily basis. To put it simply, I've grown too used to the particular heft of its handle, the delicate, slightly curved line of its blade to give it up. Even though it does go against my normal policy of giving away things which hold within them memories which make me sad. But this time it's kind of a good kind of sadness, I think, or at least it serves as a daily reminder of something I can't quite put my finger on. A kind of nostalgia for our mutual survival of past suffering, perhaps. For instance, if we can get through using it each day, then I know that we both can do anything that we put our minds to. Or if I can maintain its sharpness for long enough, then there'll be never any need for me to procure another. Also, it's honestly just the best thing that I've ever owned. At least when it comes to chopping up things.
Hello everyone, my name is Neil Douglas, and I have 2 poems for you, 2 short poems for you this evening. Inquiry made under Section 47 of the Children Act, 1989. You are hyper, a liar, out of order, at fault, to blame. Your bruises blue, shades of violet purple, 3 sharp-edged tram lines across your thigh, symmetrical, diagonal, parallel, their length, width, measured in centimeters, recorded with care on a body map by the meticulous doctor who smiles, smells of cigarettes, hand gel. He asks, how has this happened? The marks on your leg, and your silence creeps to fill the corners of the room. Your bruises will turn brown from blue, will yellow, fade, disappear. The belt is black. The second poem. His brother Isaac laughs, asks who is listening when Ishmael says that his mum is next to God in the hierarchy of people known to him, who include Miss Roberts at school, Jasmine and Shani, Ali at the chicken shop, and the older boys who ask him to deliver small packages on his tiny bike to sustainable people with sympathetically restored brickwork, known to him only by the numbers on their doors. Thank you.
Hello. I just wanted to say first that I'm so honored and grateful to be a part of this magazine and a part of this issue. And hearing everyone's reading is just so amazing and lovely. And I'm really grateful for this event. So today I'm going to be reading my flash fiction piece titled First Time Alone in the City. I am becoming my own city ghost, lovesick and woozy over the medicine drip of urban sunsets stained by gas-guzzling cars, shadows of cartwheeling children, factories all hunched up like great metal giants, the ozone layer, static playing on a lonesome boombox on 5th Street that I step over to get to work. I imagine my eyes falling into my hands at the crosswalk sign. I don't know why. They roll around in my palms and look back at their body. Irises overstimulated, white space all grim and veiny like the root system of a dying magnolia tree. What is a body if not topography? Is it the buzz of motorcycles and street vendors waging war from my aorta to my large intestine, choking me as if to say, stop, as if to say, you're not in a small town anymore, kid. Beside me, a man spits and it lands in a woman's hair. I don't know if he meant it on purpose or if everything's just so congested here that he couldn't tell where to aim his mouth. There are so many mouths here, enough to make a whole new city of flesh and red. Listen, I am all alone and not lonely. I am walking to the subway station, but my body keeps slowing itself down in the street while I'm walking, as if to say, stop, as if to say, war is right here, as if to say, you asked for a city, and so you have received. Thank you.
Gosh, I think that line, what is a body if not topography, is going to stay with me. They're really beautiful readings, everyone. Thank you very much indeed. If the video is slightly out of sync with the reading, I suggest that you can always close your eyes and then it won't be so distracting. That's a sort of internet issue sometimes that we have. Our next 3 readers, we're going to have a video from Jennifer Edgecombe, and she's going to read some of her poetry. Then we've got Richie McCaffrey, who's here, which is great news, and he's going to read his poem. And then Danielle Prati is joining us, and she too is from the States. She's coming from Connecticut in the States.
This poem is called Grant, who was a miner at Geaver Mine in Cornwall until it closed in 1990. Grant. Our tour guide, an ex-miner, his photo from 30 years ago on the commemorative wall. I always wanted to come back. The end, 16, second, 90, painted on a locker, tea urn still plugged in. At 70 feet down he stopped us, talked about depth, then pulled a piece of ore from his pocket. Extracted from the lode a mile out to sea, containing 80% tin. This is worth more than gold, and I will never let it go.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you very much. My poem is called Father and Son in the Pub. He takes his son out once a week for the Saturday lunch session. They sit opposite each other with scant conversation. The son fell off a ladder a year ago and the brain surgery didn't work. His father sent him up there in the first place, calling him idle. The father has a dark beer, drinks more now than ever before. The son has a lager shandy and drinks much less due to the meds. Since COVID, the tables are all partitioned in perspex, so they sit as if in a prison visiting booth. One moment, the son's gripping his pint, staring into tipsy space, but it looks in the reflection like he has his hand on his father's stout. And then it's the other way round, though their hands never meet under the little hatch between them. Thank you. Thanks.
Mm.
Hi, I'm Danielle. Thank you so much for having me. This is such a thrill to be connected to people all over the world, and everyone who's in the audience, thank you as well. I'm going to read a really short poem called Morning Swim at Low Tide. Sound of cold water on skin, metal to ears just below the surface. Strung buoys necklace the rising, liquid breast bright with gems. On the sand, a woman retrieves her wiry dog. Your young son hums, summing his waistband. A moon unyielding, pain of loss, the water retreats from your body.
Thank you, Danielle. Moving on to our next group. We've got Tamar Yusuf. She sent a video of her poem. And then we've got Lisa Kelly. Lisa's here, but we're going to show her video. I think that's right, isn't it, Lisa? And then we've got Cecilia Knapp, who is going to read her poem. And Cecilia is the Young People's Poet Laureate for London. So welcome.
Half-life. The ones before us passed this way, each step clogged in mud. Now they're gone. The path pocked with tracks, hardened casts of ghosts. We skulk through lanes and glades, keeping our distance. Distance is all we've got. The space around us haloed, but we're not angels. We lock ourselves in attics, crazy Berthas crying to the moon, no one around to hear. The streets rewild, creatures come out of hiding, while we retreat, our ragged secrets stuck in struts of junked machines. What we've learned of truth and trust isn't enough. There's a shadow we can crawl into, not come out.
Hello, my name is Lisa Kelly. I'm really happy to have my poem in Ambit 242. Thank you so much to the editors for choosing my poem. It was written in the first lockdown on a cycle ride, and it's really a recording of my impressions and feelings on a very hot summer's day. A valid excuse. It was a beautiful day, I will tell them. I felt myself flowering towards the feminine. The mechanical digger dealing in dirt was a distraction from the girl on her bike in the rainbow dress and a helmet with a pink unicorn horn. Any beauty would be lost in the retelling, I will tell them. I envied the cat basking in beauty and the pregnant model in an orange leopard skin bikini lying on the grass. One living in the present, the other expectant. Why pick up pen and paper on a day like this I will ask. I will tell them, and they will understand. It was a beautiful day. Thank you so much for listening.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for including my poem and for having me. It's really been a real pick-me-up in a grey, horrible January, and this has certainly been a lovely thing to do on a Monday evening, to hear all of your amazing words. So I'll get on with my poem. This is Bust Up Lip. Come in from the cold, babe. Your glasses are all smashed up. You say it don't hurt, don't want to be touched, cleaned up, but it's raining. Hard, green, Brighton rain. You disappear up your tree with your hands on fire in the new tracksuit you saved up for. You're invisible against the night, hiding the long limbs you were born into. You don't want to play footy. You want to dance purple, feel the slick untwist of a lippy. You want the girls from the estate who let you kiss them exactly because you don't like it. They show you how drink works. They are goddesses, blue eyeshadow, smart mouths. I love them. They always bring you home. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Cecilia. And again, welcome. It's really, it just thrills us to see people right at the beginning. And, you know, we hope you'll be a friend of Ambit for many, many years. Moving on, we are sort of behind time. So, but don't worry, we've got wonderful things for you. Padraig Reagan, we're going to see a video of their work, and then we're going to hear from Samantha Walton. Is going to read some prose, and then Shireen Akhtar is going to read her short fiction. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Padraig Reagan, and I'm absolutely delighted to have two poems in this issue of Ambit, which I'm now going to read. I'm going to begin with the slightly shorter one, which is called A Machine for Harvesting Olives. The limb of a nude umbrella, a makeshift robot's hand, a rake that chose to specialize. We introduce it to the tree and comb through the branches. The olives fall onto a tart like fat, soft hailstones. Each one its own insistent fact, a symbol meaning olive. Some leaves are unavoidable. A rough barber, says the tree. It has dragged my children from their home in my knotted form. You think I do not know what happens in the press? There my children weep and die. Their oily souls are wrung from the pulp that once they called themselves. Well, it would say that, wouldn't it? And the second of these is called a roast. The chicken is spatchcocked and nothing like a book, but it lies open and creases where its spine once was. It imposes its own urgent presence upon the table. It gives meaning to the silverware and crockery, our teeth and the tongues that lie behind them. There is charcoal on my fingers and on everything now. I've been working on a study of the Christ of the Foundations, the crucifix St. Teresa carried from Avila to Arevalo. There is a smudge of shadow where his ribs meet his abdomen. His hips are wider than you would expect. The chicken is nothing like a dress, but its fibers fall apart in response to my attempts to portion it. There is a scraping of forks on plates, a clicking of knives. I've been having trouble with his face. I've been trying to map the light that shapes his unmistakable cheekbones, and it resists. The buddleia creaks over the back wall, and the moon, for the occasion, who's dressed as the moon. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Samantha Walton. Thank you so much, Ambit editors, and to everyone who shared their work. I hope you can all hear me okay, by the way. Yeah, okay. I'm going to read a little bit from my short story, The Mother. I've always loved swimming in the river. How easy and yielding it is to lower my legs from the bleached wooden jetty into water as still and warm as a bath. But deeper down, it's cool and the currents tug and tease. I love this deceptive doubleness. It reminds me of summer, which is something I've decided I'm going to enjoy. But that's why the river is so dangerous. Mother tells me so on the drive as the car swerves and dips along the tarmac that crumbles into scrub on one side and falls away to the gloom of the forest on the other. Rivers have dark, cold beds and currents that will drag you down, she says. She catches my eye in the rearview mirror. Each little glance is matched by an involuntary jerk of the steering wheel. What do you know about danger? I ask her, and we round a corner into the path of a truck speeding down from the hills. It's carrying fat bundles wrapped in grey plastic, and as it swerves, it hurls white foam into the air like confetti from the hands of the father of a bride. Mother pulls out of its path, then goes silent, focusing on the road as if nothing has happened. The fields of wheat stream past. In the midday sun, they look almost white. I know the corn is still green inside because it is being sprayed with pesticides and clever, sinister chemicals. It is hard to imagine how hot the air must be outside the glass. We are going to the forest to escape the heat and the demonstrations. I ignored Mother's pleas for as long as I could, enjoying the strange way the light lingers in the city after sunset, meaning no one sleeps properly anymore or respects the curfews. There were always parties happening somewhere in airy, burnt-out warehouses or scraps of forest by empty roadways or canals. I love these little wounds of industry. Dancing, getting high and finding a place to fuck and maybe pass out for a few hours felt so curiously tender. The bones of the old city rested there, and those stretchy, elastic nights and days were one long ritual to its promise of endless, swelling accumulation. Let the good times roll, it whispered. And we did. We really tried. The roads are clogged with cars like ours, drivers and passengers, parents and children. Every back window a chaos of stuffed animals and puffed up suitcases. Sometimes we slow almost to a standstill, and then I see the others, the walkers, the childless, the single, the lonely, and the poor, pushing trolleys and dragging busted wheelie cases in the dust. A figure appears, then recedes. Mother says that would be you if you didn't have a mother to look out for you. As we get higher into the mountains, the traffic thins. We were so clever to have a place so far north, Mother says distractedly, her fingers tapping at the wheel. No one was thinking that way back then. I don't say to her that the cabin is Father's and that we shouldn't be here at all. Thank you.
Hi everyone, it's lovely to be here and I'm very happy to be reading for you all tonight. I'd just like to take a moment to thank the editors at Ambit, especially Kate Pemberton for selecting my story and Kirsty Allison for being so receptive to my work. I know it may push some boundaries, so I'm very grateful to them for the opportunity to share it with you. I've written a piece of flash fiction in this issue. I'm very interested in writing into the intersections between faith and sexuality, and bridging gaps across cultures, and I suppose in particular religious cultures that seem to be exclusive to or in opposition to each other. So this is my story about a rabbi and his ungendered, unidentified interfaith partner and how they navigate through their relationship in this slightly messy state of affairs. I'm aware of time, so I'll just read a small section from the middle of the piece here. But the piece is also available online as an animated video. So if you have time, I would say definitely check it out and subscribe to the Ambit YouTube channel. So I think the link is on Twitter. I'll now read from my piece, Romance. Slumbering in thick, warmed down, hairy arms, I woke from a monster. I had fought the devil again and lost last night. I wake him to apologize. Did I say bad things? He chides me. The devil was just your misconceptions about God. I ask him if he's ever seen him or if they have talked. He says God is only known by his voice and his character, and it's not always as we would suppose. You can be proud of me, 8:30 now and not a single glass. Only sat here at the kitchen table, tick, wasting time, waiting for time to mean something, however fleeting. Look, now it's 22:21. Look again, here, tick, again, and wait. I wonder what magnet was put to his brain labeled God. I wonder if he prefers God to me. Then I wonder if God is good looking. Probably supremely, so why the veil? I always think now, it's not the value that is inherent in each human life. It is its attractiveness. We should all want to be each other, pay each other's dues. That's what I tell him when he comes in before he sets his briefcase on the counter. I love his collar on him, those half sleeves yearning with pleasure. I make things up, but I swear the threads in his shirt have that peaceful grimace of too much proximity to something so good. He asks if I'm high. I lie and then tell him I thought he'd be earlier. He stands for a long time, his hand on the kitchen chair. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Shireen. And do check out the video that is up there. All right, our next readers are going to be Liam Bates, who's going to read live, Tom Wells, who's going to read from his story, The Gaia, and that's going to be live. Gail McConnell, we're going to see a short video from her poetry, and then we're going to Jeremy Scott, who's going to read part of his story, The Notes.
Hey, thanks for having me. Can you hear me? Yeah, cool. This poem's called My Responsibility. More people get sick nightly when they lean from their window, looking for the moon, but finding only vacancy. He's asked me not to tell you, but the moon's been here on my sofa for a week now, glowing sloppily, streaming adolescent cartoons. I'm pretty sure he's fallen back to drinking. Honestly, you should have seen the state of him when I dragged him from the Gas Street Canal. He says he doesn't want to be a burden, and I'd love if I could make him feel useful again. But what use is the moon to a poet? Thank you.
Hi, thanks to everyone at the Ambit team for making this happen and to all the other brilliant writers we've heard tonight. This is an extract from my short story, The Gaia. After, though I didn't smoke, I wanted to smoke a cigarette. The house was full of all your things, lying listlessly around, so I started shelving them. I worked systematically, filling up the alphabet, scattering T's and B's and P's, quickly populating S, slowly moving out towards the harder letters, Malcolm X, Xenophon. I filed De Quincey under Q. Was grateful when I found you had a moth-eaten Zola to complete the set. It's true that some of your tastes surprised me. You had so many cookery books, and yet I'd never seen you cook. You'd not owned any pans. You also had a lot of books about how to tie different kinds of knots, which puzzled me because you'd never been a sailor, and in my naivety, I'd always assumed it was only sailors who wanted to learn about such things. Sometimes you'd underline things. Many parts of Boswell's Life of Samuel Johnson had been underlined, and this surprised me, as you'd never mentioned him. though it surprises me less now that I know there were many things which were important to you, which you never mentioned to me. Maybe you loved Dr. Johnston. Maybe he had been your inspiration in life. He certainly had been very witty. Or maybe you had simply read the book when you were young and more trigger happy with your pencil. Maybe making copious marginalia was something you grew out of, like overuse of exclamation marks, or smoking cigarettes whilst riding a motorbike. In fact, many of the marginalia were exclamation marks, marking passages you'd exclaimed at and wanted to be able to easily find, so as to exclaim it then again, I suppose. Sometimes I would take my pencil and add another exclamation mark in the margin next to yours, if the passage you had marked was the passage that I had also exclaimed at. Or sometimes if I was exclaiming at the fact that you'd exclaimed at it. I liked the sight of these two exclamation marks. They looked like a double take. I liked them so much that I was very strict with myself about only adding one when I genuinely had exclaimed at something that you had exclaimed at, else that would have ruined it. Sometimes you wrote notes in your books. Sometimes these were about the books, and sometimes they were not. One note next to a passage of Shelley's talking about the soul of man said simply, eggs. I've read it many times to check, and it definitely says eggs. There are not many other words the word eggs looks like. It's a mystery to me. Thanks very much.
Hello, people of Ambit. My name is Gail McConnell. It's a lovely thing to have a poem in 242. I'm going to read A River in Winter for you now. I don't really normally introduce my poems, but I will say that this grew, I suppose, from an experience of being in the rural Midwest in the States with my partner and her family, watching her father kneel on a frozen river to hack through solid ice with an axe to release water so that cows could drink. River in winter. The river is a path, is a stretch, is as glass, bulletproof, the kind you see in zoos, pocked and dinted edge to edge, something being bruised, swan feathers trapped under a sheet, plucked and held inside the ice, and where what was once a river meets the yellowed grass, something like a tide line makes its way. We find it dammed down where your father kneels on his bad knees, in front a growing hole, soot black earth and ice behind. The cows come close through beaver gnawed stalks. They turned corners into curves, licking salt cubes. Now they stand where quick red arcs flash, fall, pierce, lift, and the water level rises, black and cold. A windmill in the trees up by the squirrel's nest keeps turning, with a ticking like the clock in my son's room. The son we have not had, but carry, as again the axe strikes ice through empty air.
Hi everybody, can you hear me? Yeah, my name's Jeremy Scott. I'd like to thank Ambit for having me this evening, and thank you everyone for coming on to listen. I'm going to read the opening of my short story, The Notes. Say it's a small city. It's a small city with a small square, cobblestones dull with morning rain. The streetlights are still on, so the cobblestones have orange halos. There's an old man in a faded cloth cap sitting on a bench in the centre of the square, bent forward, his hands resting on his knees. Rain drips from the peak of his cap. But say nothing else moves anywhere. All is quiet. Let's say it's a city waiting for something to happen. So the old man sings a note, far. The word that's squatting on top of the note doesn't matter. This note just hangs above the cobblestones, seeking the will to fight before fluttering back to the ground. And suddenly the square is full of people. Day trippers in bright red or dark green pacamats twist around the war memorial like cheap plastic wreaths. School kids swing bags, scattering crisp packets, shoppers, and the old women in pairs on the lookout for tea. A young woman sits, her chin resting on the handle of a crutch. Two-seater prams crisscross, oblivious. The door of the pub opens and a girl comes out. She slams the door behind her. A white van nudges its way from one side of the square to the other, parting the day trippers like the prow of a ferry through the litter on oily water. Now no one and nothing is standing still, apart from the old man in the corduroy cap with his hands on his knees. The people part and join up again as they move around him, leaving a circle of empty cobblestones around his sandals. He sings a second note, me this time. It still doesn't matter about the word. This one goes a little further. Far picks itself up from the cobblestones and rises to join me. The two notes hang in the air above the old man's head, waiting for Ray, but Ray isn't ready yet. So they linger for a second or two, then try to fly away. They circle the accusing finger of the war memorial once before dipping down to skim the head of the girl now setting up tables outside the pub. She flaps her arms at them, tuts, and so they flutter away again. They settle for an instant on the cobblestones in front of the white van before taking fright at the toot of its horn. Then they land on railings, and the young woman on the bench waves her crutch at them, so they take off again, dive bomb the heads of the day trippers, bounce off the drumskins of Gore-Tex hoods, then stutter, rise, drop, and hover, uncertain. Outside a cafe now, not in the square, still within reach of the long shadow of the cathedral. This cafe lies along the narrow street where the buildings on either side lean towards each other for comfort. Sitting at a table under the eaves and watching water drip onto the edge of the scuffed brown table, a man and a woman. The man's mouth forms a smile, but his eyes are blank. He leans back in his chair. The woman's face is pale, the eyes wide, wet, teeth bared, snarling, frozen. Call her Anne. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're almost getting to the end. I do apologize for going over time. But we've just got so many wonderful things to share with you. Next coming up is Alice Miller, who's based in Germany. We're going to see a video of her poetry. Then we've got Ollie Todd, who's going to read his poetry. And then Dan O'Brien is joining us from sunny Santa Monica.
Hey from Berlin, my name is Alice Miller. I am here to read a poem from Ambit 242, which I will be reading from the floor of my apartment in Berlin. The poem is called What We Find. On our way out here, I saw turbines in the ocean turning, giant white crosses among blue, and I do not wish them to be a metaphor for anything. A man is walking up in a blue t-shirt, ridden up in red shorts, and he believes he is worth listening to, as I do, clearly, bothering to type. The water does not believe it is worth listening to, can't die or listen, it continues. We remembered how to sing out here. A new friend says, should I stay in my marriage? And I do not know her well enough to tell her anything, except if you're asking, it's not going to be good either way for a bit. But after a bit, there will be the ocean. Again, the ocean, what's missed here, what gaps between what we need and what we find.
Hello, is it me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hi, I'm Ollie. Thank you, Ambit, for having me. My poem is called O'Mealy Frees a Seagull. Up in the gods at the matinee, on stage an affair, mainly astringent, false starts in a rotating bar room, inferable through its stools and dregsy beer bottles. With no interval scheduled, the upper circle takes on the heat and hirsute textures of a greenhouse. In this tropical air, we nod at the stairs. Afternoon tea at Fortnum and Mason belies our deception. Little deco tea tools and a window over sunny German streets, hand-visored work levers. In asking the waitress about pasteurized cream, it was necessary to tell a stranger about the bump before telling your friends. Scones with jam and butter it was then, the trail on the side. Later, at a Mayfair gallery, going along the line of Blondie's blowtorched toast art, with Lucian outside stopping traffic, posing next to a black cab wrapped in his ad. Twin super yachts, reaching Skate's anchorage, picking up fair winds in these post-discretion era seas. The best betrayal that day swept into the azure air of Monaco on O'Mealy's Instagram. He'd found a great lost gull on his hotel terrace, and with a white wiry wing in each of his big Aussie hands, indeed with the Veronica pass of a matador, flung it over the guardrail to freedom. Keeping the sword of this wit, obscured by the muleta, was a how to faint 101, and what we loved most about the footage were the gulls the freed gull joined, already circling between the tall buildings below. Thank you.
Okay, I guess I'm next. I'm unmuted. I'm Dan O'Brien. I'm going to be reading a prose poem, a short prose poem from a new manuscript I'm calling Survivor's Notebook. It's prose poems about the first few years for me post cancer treatment. The title is The Faces of Doctors. Appear like angels, ambiguously like parents. The first looked like an accountant. 50-50 he gave me. Like Reagan or the Queen Mum, he said, though he lied. Then the goateed Saturnine Armenian surgeon, my age with children, we don't know what we may find. My wife wanted to tear his larynx out. His relief after the surgery a year later with the photos, proud of his pink artistry, the affable Jewish oncologist who does not care for theater or poems, pressed for stats, he flinches, though minutely he relaxes, the Chinese surgeon who set my words to music, who thinks I am a war reporter, whose daughters I may have taught, we can save you, he said. What the hell happened to you? The Indian-American gastroenterologist with the Irish surname asked, you're my age. Then I'll see you next year. The blonde young nurse this morning says congratulations as she brushes against my scar with gloved fingers. They hurry now because the emergency's elsewhere. Thanks.
Thank you, Dan, and we're very glad the emergency is elsewhere. Nice to see you. Thank you all so much for coming today. I know it's such a strange time and we can't wait until we can all be together again. I think the only really positive thing is that doing it on Zoom, we can share it with so many friends of ours in the States and they can be part of it. And I think that's really been special tonight. I'd like to say a big thank you to Mike Smith, our production editor, who's also working as our DJ tonight, and Maria and Kirsty for putting everything on. You're going to hear our last piece is from Reggie Clare, and she's done it to a beautiful landscape of Edinburgh, so we thought it'd be a lovely piece to end with. I just want to say thank you for all your support. We're very humbled by your support. And we're very glad that you've chosen to spend the evening with us. We thank you for your support. We thank you for subscribing. We thank you for submitting. Sign up for our newsletter, buy the copy. The stuff is fantastic. And we just really thank you very much for coming this evening. And to take us out, let's listen to Reggie Clare. And we hope to see you in person very, very soon. Mwah.
Hello, my name is Reggie Clare, and this is my flash fiction, The Other Side. I walked out on a clear rose gold afternoon. No goodbyes, no nothing. I shut the front door behind me, then the garden gate, and turned left towards the woods. I had no desire to bump into any acquaintances who might interfere with what I perceived as my destiny. And it's been quite a trajectory, hasn't it? From being no one to becoming something, someone. Just then a little girl with a swish of blonde curls came running round the corner, and for a moment her smile, so bright and joyful, almost made me turn back. "Hello, Paul," she cried. A strand of her hair blew into my face, and she was gone. That's one beginning only. The other starts with a row. "Fuck off," Paula said. "Fuck off, you bastard." I can't remember now what it was all about, or maybe I don't want to. Of course, there's also a third beginning. There would have to be, wouldn't there? The beginning before or after the first two? This I leave to your own imagination. The woods that September day felt dim and dense despite the sunshine. The trees grew too close together, as if they were passing secrets through their leaves and needles, their network of branches, the fir cones serving as microconnectors and amplifiers. Perhaps I was being paranoid, as Paula always claimed. But later they weren't trees so much as a mass of upright posts trying to fence me in, stopping me from getting away. By then it was dark and I seemed to have lost my glasses. I'm hopeless without them. Who am I? And who is Paula, you ask? Your lover? Your twin? Your hippy-dippy mother? And the little girl, what about her? Is she a childhood friend? Your once upon a time self? Well, these days it doesn't really matter, does it? Paula, people, a few pigeons here and there, feeding them, and myself on occasion from my doggy bag. I always seem to have a doggy bag, and it always miraculously refills itself with bits of stale bread, even broken biscuit. How did I get to be so lucky? The morning after I walked out, I awoke on the other side of the wood. I assumed it was the other side since I didn't recognize any of the houses in the village nearby. But my glasses were still gone, so I couldn't be certain. I knew it had to be a village rather than a town, and a small village at that, because there was only one church bell to climb the hours. Several days later I reached the main valley, much wider, more gentle, where people spoke in a softer accent and they themselves were softer, kinder and more generous. For after asking around I found someone who gave me a spare pair of glasses. They were a little strong at first, but my eyes soon adjusted to them. Then I found a place to stay and factory work, nothing fancy, and everything seemed to be going right for me at last. Just picture it, no daily struggles, no anxiety, no fights with Paula, no fights with anyone, or at least none that I care to remember. Yesterday I heard that 2 other men from my old village have also disappeared. They haven't made it this far yet, and something tells me they never will. No one has mentioned Paula. Perhaps she's still there in that house, in her frilly pink apron, baking apple pie with whipped cream, cooking lamb chops and T-bones oozing blood, the way I like it. Perhaps. There are all sorts of endings, really, and hope is such a fierce, such a wretched thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I invite everybody to unmute themselves and just give a round of applause so we could at least hear you for a second. So do unmute yourself. A rousing applause for everybody who's been here this evening, and it's been great to see everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for coming. Sorry we went over time, but I think it was worth it. And thank you also for all the contributors who didn't get a chance to read tonight. Welcome to them as well.
Thank you.
I think, Alison, you get the best background award. But I hope everybody stays safe. And how's the weather, Dan, in Santa Monica? Cheer us all up and tell us it's sunny and bright. Send it our way. He's muted.
It's my fault.
Oh.
No.
No, never mind.
It looks sunny.
Here we go.
There we
Okay.
go.
All right. Yeah, it's a really chilly 65 degrees. So
We're so sorry for you, Dan. I'm so sorry for you.
and some
Anyway.
scarves and coats and things. Thank you for this event. It was wonderful.
Oh, it's our pleasure. And it's so nice to see so many familiar faces and so nice to meet some new faces as well. And Olivia, where's JP? Can you bring Jean-Philippe, please, into the screen? Because we need to give a huge round of applause to Jean-Philippe Dordelot and Olivia Bax for their 30 issues of amazingness that they've worked on. Can we see those flowers again, please, Olivia? We didn't really get a good, it was a big surprise, you see, to get these flowers. There we go. There we go. Perfect. Lovely. We will really miss it. I mean, the reason Olivia is going is that she's just becoming so famous and so successful that she, doesn't have any time anymore. But that's what we're here for.
Not strictly true, but thank you, Bryony. Thanks
you,
very much.
Olivia.
Great as well. It was a really nice event. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Anyway, stay safe, everybody, and we will see you on the other side. Submissions windows opens in March, just for the month of March. Everything will be on the website, and we wish you luck with all your writing and listening. It's wonderful to see everybody, and we will see you again. Our next launch will be, of course, with the Fat White Family, so goodness knows what that's going to be like. It's going to be lots of music, I expect,
amazing.
and quite crazy. I can't wait to see what they're going to come up with. So that's going to be at the end of April. So we'll hope to see you all then. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Bryony.
Thank
you.
Oh, Stephanie,
Bye.
my dear friend from my childhood. Hi, Steffi.
Thanks, George Labour.
AKA Glenda Reed. If you haven't seen her perform, she's a great comedian. We'll see you on the other side, Steph. Take care, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you for coming.